Greetings, class. In this installment, we're going to be addressing the question, what are conflict skills? So there's two parts to this. One is, what is conflict? And in class, we'll use the definition of conflict as, conflict is the threat or the perceived threat to the ability for an individual or party to meet his or her interests, wants, or needs. And skills are the things that we have that are the things that we can do well. So when we put it together, conflict skills are the things that a person can do in order to better achieve the outcomes they desire when a person or party is having or experiencing a threat or perception of a threat to the ability to meet their interests, wants, or needs. So there's different types of skills, and we're going to cover a lot. So in general terms here, we're looking at what are the things a person can do, right? So what are the things that help to advance conflict in a way that is more likely to deliver the outcomes a person wants? Or what are the things a person can do in conflict that are more likely to prevent the escalation to maybe acts of violence or to further extend the harm or damages to individuals, property, or relationships that might manifest as a result to ongoing conflict, right? There's a number of different ways to look at what's good, right? So the first part of the skill is to look at what are the things a person can do to help him or her get what they want, right? Achieving your outcome you want. So this could be thought of according to three different satisfactions. One is substantive. The substance of a conflict is what are the physical things, right? If I'm fighting with somebody over a pen, I feel like I win when I get the pen, right? And I feel like I lose when I don't get the pen. The substance, the physical manifestation of the want expressed or the interest expressed in the conflict, right? Disputes over water. The person who gets the water frequently feels like they've won. The person who loses the water feels like they've lost something. There's emotional satisfaction, right? How do you feel about the conflict? Maybe I don't really care a whole lot about the pen. I just don't like the idea that somebody else thinks that they could take it from me, especially if it's somebody who I have a relationship with. And I feel like, why didn't you just ask me first as opposed to just taking it, right? Might have some emotional feelings about betrayal or something that are accompanied with it. And then there's process satisfaction. Again, there are ways we go about managing conflicts, and sometimes it's more important to just feel heard than it is that the issue that's actually being fought over. So identifying, as we've talked about in a previous installment, like what our own hot buttons are, who am I, what are the things that I care about, we could be strategic, right? The skill is the ability to apply technique, analysis, thinking, right? To learn from our mistakes, to do all of these things, to think systematically about how to positively benefit ourselves in conflicts, right? Historically, maybe we've learned that conflict avoidance is the best practice. It's a good strategy. We don't get involved in it. We don't, get hurt through conflict. But we don't necessarily learn how to positively advocate for ourselves or to engage with others when there are tensions about competing interests, values, or needs. So these are skills. Is shouting at the person going to be the best thing to do in a given time? Is speaking calmly going to work? Is saying like we should pause here and collect ourselves, right? Like there are different interventions. Figuring out when to use them, that's a skill, right? If we think about different practices, right? It's a skill to use a hammer. It's a skill to use a screwdriver. Part of the skill is to be able to also identify which tool is appropriate for the purpose that you're getting involved in. So skills, what are the things you can do? What are the things that you can do well? What are the things that you can do well to engage with conflict, right? Most of us tend to have a mindset that we want to avoid conflict. It's the most commonly employed method of conflict management in the United States of America. It's used for some 90% of all conflicts. So Avoidance is a strategy, but it's not necessarily a helpful one. It helps us to keep from things getting worse, but it doesn't help us to better ourselves usually, right? If we avoid asking for what we want, we're less likely to get what we want. So what are the things that we can do, right? Those are the skills. So active listening. Active listening is helpful because frequently the other person's not going to be able to understand you, but if you understand them, right? Because it's a skill. If the other person hasn't worked on it, there's no reason to assume that they have the skill at something. But if you understand them, if you're able to understand what their position is, it still helps you to better navigate the terrain for what are the issues that you're facing. Being able to separate positions from people, right? That's one of the things that our text for the class is going to talk about. Being hard on problems but soft on people, right? That's a skill. Identifying what the focus is, being able to break a conflict down into its different parts. That's a skill. Being able to problem solve or think about and creatively think about, especially creatively think about, like you're inside of a box. How do you get out of that box to think about what are potential solutions, right? What are options that haven't been explored? Frequently, by the time you're getting to the part where the conflict is really starting to boil over, people have tried all of the in-the-box solutions and they haven't worked. You have to be creative and think of something else, right? So being strategic, being able to think about different options, being able to apply them, being able to systematically identify what are the priorities, going after the things that are most important, right? So we have a number of skills. I've tried not to go into too much detail about all of the different skills we'll try to cover in the class. But again, these are the things that you might not always use, but having them in the toolbox, right? Your different skills. That means that you don't have to be afraid of certain scenarios. That means that you have a better opportunity of or likelihood for getting what you want. And that you can see actually where the opportunities for engaging in conflict for positive outcomes and positive change are likely to present themselves. See you in the next one.